state is a fiercely competitive and ruthless society. Misery and triumph.
And now, After Hours with Rixx Javix.
Welcome to After Hours with Rixx Javix. I'm your host, Rixx Javix, coming to you from the darkest reaches of low-security space, live from the Stay Frosty Lounge. Grab a cold drink, light a cigar, and let's talk.
I am Lenny Kravitz, too. I was one of the main financiers of World War B, and yeah. yeah. You run. You used to. I mean, I don't know if you've stepped aside yet, but you're involved with I Want ISK too, correct? Yes, I put in my 30 days notice.
Right.
So on November 1st, I will be officially done with I Want ISK. I'm also selling my shares and focusing on my new project.
Right. Yeah, that's the new project that we wanted to talk about today. But let's start back with something a little bit further back. Let's start with Care for Kids. Mm-hmm. Now, from my perspective, I've been involved with Jonas for a while now. It seems like a couple years. I'd have to check, but it sounds like it's a great charity that he started, and all I've done is just help him out with some graphics from time to time. I did a special poster that he had printed and sold to raise money, that kind of thing. I do every once in a while. I'll do a coloring book page for him to hand out at the hospitals for the kids, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So we go back way far. So I've always been a supporter of that. I think it's great for the community to stand behind these kinds of things. So with that in mind, I know my last couple of months have been real busy, tied up with the Alliance tournament mostly. Mm-hmm. But I know a few months ago there was a Care for Kids Citadel, and that was money was being raised for, and I'm pretty sure that I donated some money for that as well. But so that kind of forms the background, I guess. Is there anything that I missed, or how did you become involved with Care for Kids?
Basically, helping to donate the Citadel, the Keep Star that was placed in Mila.
Now, what was the point? What was the purpose behind that?
So Iron poked me and asked me if I wanted to support Care for Kids. I hadn't really known much about it, and he kind of gave me a brief overview of what it was doing, and I really liked that concept that kids that are sick, we're introducing them into Eve to get their minds off of things and let them play and enjoy the entire experience that Eve is.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what kind of hit me was I have a 3-year-old son, and I was thinking to myself, like, if he got older and got sick, I would want to bring him into Eve. And I know that there are kids that may not have that opportunity. That really kind of struck home for me. It's like I wouldn't mind putting something towards that. So that's why I did it.
Yeah, I think it's having children that really making the world a little better place for them, So that's not unusual. I know it's done that for me over the years too. Okay, so that's sort of where that started, and then, explain to people what it is that you're trying to do, I guess.
I am trying to construct the largest trade and logistics network in the game, for the purpose of easing the logistical hurdles that many of the PvP groups have. So my alliance and Corp in particular is pretty small. When we were in Brave, we've been kicked out of our space twice and basically had to move like tons of caps, and with the PvE system, it just was a super big hassle. This idea with Citadels kind of came in, and I was thinking to myself, what would make things easier for people to go and pick a fight or take a fight or just do their thing? And it was to set up the Citadel network, have it be completely neutral. And I knew that people would not believe me because of World War B, and that's why I wanted Kriba to be in the head position. So he's going to have everything locked down. Like the Freeport status is going to be locked down. The broker fees will be locked. Like they'll never be higher than 1%. They could get lower, that kind of thing. So I wanted to make things easier. And my guys still like go out and deploy and stuff like this. And it would just benefit them huge. They could just go to a nearby market, trade hub, and buy what they need. And voila, they're deployed.
So, if I get this right, essentially what you're envisioning is a network, sort of a jump bridge network, but built around citadels that are open to anyone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And are you considering doing this, long term? I mean, everywhere?
Only low sec. So, by trying to do this in nullsec, it opens up massive invasion corridors, and it's like strategically impossible for me to get people to agree to that.
Right.
So it's only going to be at low sec to make traveling from one end of the game to the other more feasible. You don't have to go around the long way to avoid a group. You can just go straight through the middle. What this also means, though, is that once you're off the network, you can be hunted, and probably will be, because it is shrinking the ranges that these hunter groups need to look for people, because they can watch you on the network. Right. And if they do their history, their checks on you to see where you're from or stuff like that, once you get off the network, they're gonna be coming after you. So, well,
yeah, I mean, certainly these are going to become hubs of activity, I would think, and then hubs of activity become predictable behaviors, and predictable behaviors mean gate camps and hunter, for us low sec pirates, opportunities for exploding ships full of loots. Right? Yeah.
Yep. And that's exactly what I want. I want people to have content, but I also want logistics to be a lot easier for everybody, so that they don't have to stall a war or an engagement or deployment or whatever you want to call it, or not go on it because they can't feasibly do it.
Right. So let's start with one of the criticisms, which is, and perhaps you can explain this, if Kriba is an obvious choice. Obviously, he's been around since the beginning. There's probably no one more trusted in the game than Kriba. And then, obviously, he's going to be functioning sort of as the executor, I would think, the business manager kind of guy. And you're Mr. Moneybags, of course, and you're going to be funding it. Yep. So where does Care for Kids come into this, and why?
So when I had the initial idea and I'm like doing my planning phase, basically taking in feedback, trying to mull over how best to do it, one of the individuals that I poked was C4 because of his experience with laying down. When I talked to him, we really meshed ideas, and I mean, he helped a ton in helping me figure out like how to do this. And logistically, I was not in a position to lay these down. My guys had just moved, so I didn't have anybody that I could use for my alliance. Pretty much that was it. Like I needed bodies, and I needed to poke other people too, because this project probably is involving around 40 to 50 citadels being deployed.
Okay. Wow. That's a considerable amount. And
yes.
And what size citadels are we looking at here then?
Fortizars and Keepstars.
Fortizars and Keepstars. Okay, so but using Care for Kids isn't a shelter or anything. I mean, it's not giving you any added benefit really in game at all.
No, not really. We were actually worried about getting popped a few times as the guys were in freighters, and to be honest, I didn't even think about basically them being in Care for Kids.
Right.
That thought had, the whole charity shield thing never really occurred to any of us.
Right.
And we were more worried about like getting things laid down without getting hit by Project Mayhem. Me going through and talking to all of the different groups like a week before. So I started with Pandemic Legion. I talked to Snuff, Shadow Cartel, Project Mayhem, CO2, Darkness, Initiative. I did miss Test. I think I was talking about the project, but I didn't specifically ask them to not hit the citadels if they see them.
Right.
And same with the culture. But I mean, XIX, Try and Co., and even Stainwagon were pretty excited about it. So
that's great. That's quite a wide base of support, really.
Yeah, I basically poked everybody that I could. I even talked to Matani too. He's very skeptical, so not necessarily on the viability of the network. I think he's a little skeptical about that too, but more about the strategic disadvantages that goons would have if we laid down a keep star near them.
Well, I can imagine that he would be a little bit weary about anything you said to him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you told him the sky was blue, he'd probably, right now at least. So.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, given everything that's happened. So the next part of the question that I forgot to ask was, so then the proceeds from the trade activity that's going on at the low rate, is that going to benefit Care for Kids?
Some of it will.
Okay.
So we have a lot of operational costs. There are a lot of features that we want to include. One of those is Titan chaining for freighters. So Titans are expensive. We're going to probably need quite a few. If we can't get enough Titans, or if it's taking too long, we do have plans to outsource that project.
Okay.
And setting up like a check-in system. People buy tickets, and then Yep, Titan Pilot will verify that they're allowed to travel because they paid for their ticket, and then they basically Titan bridge them through the network.
Okay, now that's new. I hadn't heard that one. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, we have this large operational cost because I'm not asking everybody to not attack the network. I was doing that initially so that we could actually lay it down, but the network itself is going to be a content generator. There's going to be people that are going to hit the Fortizars.
Right. There's no stopping that, really.
No, and I don't want to, because I'm trying to generate more content for everybody and make things easier for that. So if someone hits part of the network, then we hire mercenaries to go, defend the network, and everybody gets to have a fight and have fun. And it's actually, there's a purpose to the fight. It's not, one of those mock fights where, FC talks to other FC and then they meet up in the middle. It's
it's an actual fight over content, right? And that benefits everyone. Yeah, I mean, there's really no way, and you might as well embrace it. It is Eve after all. So you can't prevent these kind of things. It'd be silly to try.
Well, it takes away from the Eve experience, really.
Right. Okay, well that's interesting. I mean, what about those people that are yelling on Reddit about the nightmare that is JITA? Now that you've explained it, I'm having a hard time seeing it have much of an impact on JITA as far as a trade hub goes.
So they're not understanding that I'm not taking away the customers from JITA. What's happening is I'm shifting the majority of the customer base to the actual traders that are going to be moving the goods to my trade hubs. The customers, not the customers, the consumers, the primary consumers, the people that use and blow up these ships, are still going to be there. And those guys are not going away from buying the assets that will be coming from JITA. It's just that now traders are going to be taking those assets and moving them at the trade hub.
Right, and let's be honest too that if you're a person who's buying in the high sec hub that is JITA, you're not suddenly going to drop everything and start doing that in low sec. There's obviously downside to doing that in low sec.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, people like myself, for example, who will blow you up, much easier in low sec than we can in high sec. So. Yeah, pirates and all, Yep. Yeah. So I don't see it either. If your plan is to stick to low sec, which is what you're saying, then I don't see that really impacting the buying side anyway. So essentially, you're providing a safe harbor between nullsec and the trade hubs, or a safer harbor, I guess I should say.
It's pretty much like JITA at your doorstep. Right. If you, let's say, your primary doctrine is nightmares and Macarials, and you put in requests for stocking, and traders will see that, and they start stocking with the stuff that you need. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere. You'll be within, if you're near the hub, 1 or 2 jump freighter jumps away.
Right.
And it's just easy to get what you need and move it.
Yeah, I mean it's a logistical nightmare running a nullsec alliance and providing all the materials that need especially for those who aren't large, from the smaller alliances, and also, those that are behind, some of the gateway systems that are difficult to travel through, especially those around NPC space. So, I immediately, I think of the Syndicate, I think of Curse, I think of, In-Rail, some of those bottlenecks. It's hard to get logistically through those. So I can see the benefit of this for sure. You just jump over them, really.
Yep, that's what the plan is getting it so that it's easier for them to do their thing, and hopefully it's easier for people to deploy to other areas. One
of the big criticisms that I saw on Reddit was that you were definitely out to ruin the game. So I think that you probably would laugh if I said that, right? You're definitely out to ruin the game, right, Lenny?
Yes.
Yes.
I can say that is patently true.
We'll do our little 60 minutes thing here, and I'll nail you to the wall, and then you'll admit it, and then my ratings will go up. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It makes sense to me. I think that it's probably making some people mad because no one else thought of it. A, and B, it's probably making some people mad because they can't afford to do it if they did think of it. Mm-hmm. But I'm having a hard time finding any sort of negatives to pin you to the wall with.
I don't know why people think it will ruin the game. I really took a lot of time to put in safeguards. Like, I don't even have control. I'm not even in the alliance that controls the citadels.
Right.
Like, the person that's going to have absolute control is going to be Kriba. If he wanted to self-destruct all of the citadels, then he just played the longest game, con game in the history of EVE.
Yeah, that would be very impressive, by the way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even be mad at him. I would be like, well done.
well done, sir. Yes.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
And everybody else.
Right.
But aside from that, I just don't really see why they think that. It makes things so much more simple for people. And I'm hoping that this will drive a lot of content, especially once the clone states come in. And
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It should make life easier for alphas, I would think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So any group that wants to venture off into lowsec, they can live in one of the Fortizars along the chain. The Fortizars are all free-ported.
Right.
So, and they're going to have, every single Citadel is going to have the clone facilities or the services. We can put in additional services, probably not a market service, because there's the furthest point in the network from a trade hub is probably 3 jumps away. So if you live in the middle of one of the chains, you're going to be within 3 jump freighter jumps or 3 cap jumps of
nice.
one of the trade hubs.
Okay, so let's say I wanted to invade Curse, and guys down in Curse really didn't want me to do that. Is there a possibility of this network, especially those that would be in the way of me doing that, being used politically against me or against those people living in Curse?
Patently no. Like, there's absolutely, unless you can somehow manage to convince Kriba to not be neutral.
And no one's been able to do that in 13 years, so I doubt I'll be able to.
Yeah. Like that, and that's why I did this, because it's very powerful, but if used as a neutral entity, like, everybody reaps the same benefit.
Right.
You have the same advantage.
So he's going to be the man with the keys, and he's going to continue to be the only man with the keys?
Yes.
All right.
Now there's been a lot of talk, like, what happens if he cannot play the game, or if something happens to him in real life.
Sure.
He is going to chat with CCP about how to proceed with that. So maybe a line of succession, someone that could take his place. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here.
Right.
So
that would be a concern for everybody anytime, wouldn't it? I mean, heaven forbid that someone were, in a car accident or something and unexpected. But that's true of all of us, though. What would happen to all of our assets and plans and schemes in game if something horrible like that would happen? I mean, it has, to friends of mine, I'm sure you've probably known people too. But so that's just always and Kriba being Kriba, I mean, obviously would have a bigger impact than you or I. But that's true of the Mittani too, I guess. So, I mean, I guess basically that, in my opinion, having read over what I've read over, I think essentially people are fearful of any dictator. especially, one who so recently just sort of helped along a previous dictator who suddenly comes up with a scheme. It's immediately going to make people feel that something was up about that. So I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. I don't blame anybody. I don't, I understand exactly what they're feeling and everything. And so right. I don't have hurt feelings. I don't feel anger towards anybody or anything like that. It's understandable. That's why I'm trying to be super open about it and explain it and answer their questions.
Okay, so that brings me to really my last big question, though, and you brought it up about being open and transparent. There was a call from a few corners to open the books and to be completely transparent. Has there been any thought given to some kind of system or a website or something that could do that? How would that even be done, I guess?
So I've thought about different things. One of the big things that I wanted to do was have kind of like economic reports on the network, like how much each trade hub has been making and the network in general, because there will be ISK being generated from other services besides the trade hubs.
Right.
So like if you put up an office in a Fortizar, that's going to go towards the network. If you put a jump clone in, that's going to go towards the network. Small fees. They're not going to be too huge.
Right.
Putting out economic reports kind of shows people that the network is functional. The network is making money and doing stuff. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to completely open up the books. I'll have to get with Kriba on that and see. I can see the benefit of it though, but I can also see some of the drawbacks. So if we have X amount of ISK going towards our defense budget and people are tracking that, someone can attack the network in a way that would try to wipe out the defense budget, and then they can actually truly engage the network.
Well, I was also thinking just now while you were talking is if I see a spike, let's go back to my scenario involving Curse as a hypothetical. If I see a sudden spike in the amount of material being moved to that particular location, the jump off point. I mean, again, that's intel. If I see a large spike of battleships and other types of material being moved into a certain location, I can certainly, without too much intelligence, figure out that somebody's up to something, right?
Yes and no. So the interesting thing about the ranges of all of these is that for a jump freighter, it's pretty huge. So
yeah.
The trade hub that's going to actually reach Curse will also be able to reach Pravi,
right,
and parts of Amencia and a little bit of Ketch, I think.
Right.
As well as the Great Wildlands. So
right.
Unless you're particularly looking at those guys and know their doctrines and you see that spike for their specific doctrines, which would be very hard. Yeah, the doctrine items actually overlap with different doctrines.
That's going to be insane amounts of data mining.
Yeah.
Although we are talking about even nerds here, so it's not like there's going to be a Curse station or a Providence station. I mean, these stations will be able to, these citadels, I guess I should call them, will be able to reach many regions. So
yeah, that's the point, is to have them reach out to multiple regions and connect to a center point.
Right. So that alleviates some of that concern, I would think. So you're thinking more like quarterly stockholder reports, kind of, like corporations do. Yeah. Was there? As far as I'm concerned, that's all the questions that I had for you. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention that we didn't get a chance to cover?
I just wanted to really push out the point that prior to the whole Anunan and Keepstar being deployed, that all of those entities were already talked to, and it was made clear that it wasn't a Care for Kids asset. It was my asset that I was laying down. I explained the network, what we were trying to do, and that's why I had to re-coordinate with Project Mayhem, because when the Care for Kids pilot was going through, they were pretty much looking at him like, oh, juicy target, which is legit. That's perfectly fine.
Absolutely.
And so we had to and they saw him in local, and they were like, oh shit. So we had to ping Project Mayhem and be like, hey, we're putting down our Citadel now, so just letting you know. And they're like, oh, okay, and then they left. So, yeah, I understand the issue that people have, but when you kind of look at it from my point of view, where I've already made all of the steps prior to it to make sure that nothing happens, and then didn't even think about that, it's kind of like, shit, you know?
Well, I mean, everyone makes mistakes. And the other side of it is, too, that a lot of times, and I know I'll speak for myself, the things that I do, a lot of times are in progress, and I'm not 100% sure that they're ever going to be public. I know I have done things in the past that went from step 1 to step 2 to step 15 really quickly, and suddenly they were public. And a lot of that backstory, I wasn't even sure that I was ever going to go public with it, if that makes sense. So a lot of times it's not, you're just not aware of what you've been doing, or maybe things changed after a while. So it happens to all of us.
Oh, yeah. Like when we were doing that, at the same time, Mercenary Coalition was laying down some of our citadels in a different area, and same thing with Waffles and Shadow Cartel. So, like, we had Waffles, and Shadow Cartel was basically watching it and making sure that, everything was hunky-dory. It's kind of, so many things are going on. We even have a website that we're building that will produce, or it will allow people to do market analytics. It has really, really awesome features, being able to analyze the market fluctuations and transactions by volume and stuff like that.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Okay, and then lastly, we touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but you did say that you were stepping down from IWA, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. So just to make that clear to everyone, you're not involved with that casino anymore. So.
Nope.
I
pretty much have senioritis.
Well, time to move on to other things, right? I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a fun 1.5 years, 2 years, but I'm kind of tired of the stigma and the drama that comes with that association and all of that. So I'm going to do this, and hopefully people think it's cool and have fun using it and abusing it.
There you go. And then at some point down the road, we may see a Lenny Kravitz 3, right? And then we'll try to start all over from scratch.
Actually, I think he's in test.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because the other day I was trying to find you in game, and there are a lot of you. Yes.
There should be. There's Lenny Kravitz 4. He's in Pandemic Horde.
Right. Yeah, there used to be a lot of Rixx Javixes out there too, so I understand that one. Some of them were not very flattering, quite honestly. But yeah, I've been in that boat a few times myself. Well, yep. If you have anything else, I don't have any more questions. But I will say this: I think that having read over everything and listened to you tonight, I think it's a great idea. As an alliance executor myself, I can certainly see the benefit of it from our alliance's perspective, because we're not we don't build structures ourselves, and we don't fight structures. We just blow up other people's stuff. So. From my perspective, it would be a great benefit for us. So I'm looking forward to taking advantage of it as it grows. So I'll look forward to that. Yeah. I'm sorry we weren't able to connect the other day, but I'm glad you were able to take the time to answer a few questions. And do you have any final words?
Just thanks for having me on and letting me kind of explain everything. And I just hope that everybody enjoys it.
Thanks for joining the show, and for being in the lounge, and best of luck.
Yeah, take care, bro.